Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the June 19th meeting of the Lower Providence Township Board of Supervisors. If you could please all rise and join me in reciting the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Deb, I just have, could you do the roll, please? Thank you.
Mrs. Ekman.
I'm here.
Mr. Sergini.
Here.
Mr. Duffy.
Here.
Mr. Thomas.
Here.
Mrs. Zimmerman is absent.
Okay, prior to our meeting this evening, the board met in executive session, and we discussed some legal matters and some personnel matters. So with that, we'll begin with the item 1 on the agenda. That would be our consent agenda. And if I could have someone make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I would make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions on that? Have any questions from the audience on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Motion carried. Okay, this evening we have several presentations. First one being a presentation to Officer Mark Wells, recognizing his 25 years of service with the Lower Providence Township Police Department.
Mark, if you'll come forward, please. That is the rookie picture. Yeah, it doesn't change. It's my honor this evening to recognize Officer Mark F. Wells for 25 years of service to Lower Providence Township. Officer Mark F. Wells began his employment with the Lower Providence Township Police Department on June 19, 1989, as a police dispatcher. Mark assumed the responsibility for training a number of newly hired dispatchers and was designated as the department's Terminal Agency Coordinator, or TAC officer, and was responsible for ensuring compliance with all requirements for the Commonwealth Law Enforcement Assistance Network, also known as a CLEAN system. Mark put himself through the Montgomery County Municipal Police Academy and graduated in June of 1999 while working full-time shift work as a police dispatcher with Lower Providence Township. No small undertaking nor accomplishment. Right, Mike? Mark was sworn as a police officer with Lower Providence Township on July 20th, 2000. He had been assigned to the Patrol Division until his assignment in 2010 as the administrative officer for the department. In April of 2013, he assumed the responsibilities as the accreditation manager for the department's accreditation through the Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission. Mark has attended training in advanced accident investigation, commercial vehicle enforcement, alcohol breath testing devices, and has the responsibility for the calibration and certification of the department's breath testing equipment. Mark has received the department's highest award, the Commendation for Valor, and has received numerous letters of commendation for his actions over the course of his career. Mark is a graduate of Methacton High School. He had previously served as a volunteer firefighter with the Lower Providence Volunteer Fire Company and has also held the post as the treasurer for the fire company. Mark and his wife Shannon are the proud parents of a daughter, Megan, very proud parents of a daughter, Megan, who's quite accomplished in her own right. Mark, on behalf of the Lower Providence Township Board of Supervisors, we'd like to present you with this small token of our appreciation for your 25 years of dedicated service to the township. Thank you.
I think I have to make a correction to that. One of the things, I believe Mark was the secretary at the firehouse because I took up the minutes after Mark decided he had enough of it. So I'm
So the secretary?
secretary. Mm-hmm.
Really? I stand correct?
Secretary.
Sure, I
Yes.
thought you were in charge of mine.
But Lower Providence is very fortunate that Mark decided to continue on from being a dispatcher and go into patrol because you've been around a long time. You definitely know this township very well, and we're very lucky to have you. And so hopefully a few more years you'll stick around. A few.
Thank you. First, I want to thank my wife for putting up with me for the past 25 years of shift work and missing family functions and watching our daughter grow up and whatnot. I want to thank the chief for putting up with me for the past however many years that you've 25, but who's counting? I thank the Board of Supervisors also for allowing me to work for the township. It's a great township to work for. Like I said, thanks again.
Okay, item 2B, we have a presentation to Kevin Sway, who's the winner of the 66th Annual Times Herald Spelling Bee and participant of the 2014 Scripps National Spelling Bee. Kevin, would you mind coming up, please? Welcome. I'm going to have you hold this so I can read. And Kevin Sway is the winner of the 66th Annual Times Herald Spelling Bee. He is the youngest champion that the Times Herald has ever sent to the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Kevin just completed 5th grade at Skyview Upper Elementary School. Wow, quite an accomplishment. Of the 281 participants at the National Spelling Bee, only 18 were 5th graders. Kevin also is an accomplished chess player and was the top 5th grader at the 2014 State Scholastic Chess Championships. So you've been very busy. So what we have here for you, this is on behalf of the 5 board members here in Lower Providence Township. We'd like to give you this award recognizing your great accomplishments. And thank you, Kevin. We're very proud of you. Would you like to tell us about your experience at the spelling bee, if you wouldn't mind? And you have to tell us your winning word, too. We're dying to know.
Okay, my experience at the Scripps National Spelling Bee was very, very fun and educational. My winning word at the Times Herald Bee was detente, which is I forget what it means. I just still know how to spell it though. And then at the Scripps National Spelling Bee, I spelled words like serendipity and elasmosaur, and as I said, it was really fun. I would like to thank my family and Lower Providence Township for having this bee. So thank you.
Now, Kevin, when did you start studying and preparing, and how much time did you spend doing that?
The school bee started in January, and well, I won the school bee, and then I kind of started really studying, because for the school bee, it was just for fun. But then when I went to the Times Herald bee, I studied maybe half an hour a day to an hour on the weekends, but it wasn't like difficult to study. It was actually quite light. But after I won the Times Herald bee, it got quite heavy. Trying to study the dictionary.
Excellent. Okay, so you'll be back again next year when you win again for 6th grade? Okay. All right. Well, we'll be here waiting for you. All right. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, good.
Serendipity?
Serendipity, yeah. Okay, item 2C is a presentation to Benjamin Nader, a recognition of his service to Lower Providence Township as our student representative to the Board of Supervisors, and recognizing him for his attainment of the rank of Eagle Scout. So Ben has been very busy too.
Good evening, Ben. Ben's used to being here in the front of the room, and we have the unique distinction this evening for honoring Ben for 2 different accomplishments, and I know Carl will come up in just a moment to talk about Ben's Eagle Scout project. But it's estimated that only 4 in 100 boys and young men who are in the scouting program ever go on to be an Eagle Scout. And those who do stand in the company of men who have gone on to be captains of industry and astronauts, and who serve in all manner of elected office and in government service, including President Gerald Ford. And Ben here is well on his way to that because he's already served in government service as a student representative to the Board of Supervisors. Ben was instrumental in creating the program back in 2012, and he served for an entire year with distinction. And we are honored tonight to recognize him for his year of service as the student representative to the Board of Supervisors. So congratulations and thank you, Ben. And now I'll ask Carl to come up and talk about Ben's Eagle Scout project, and then we'll let Ben talk.
Proclamation first.
Okay. Whereas Lower Providence Township takes pride in its sense of community and citizen involvement, and whereas the Eagle Scout is obligated to live his life with honor, loyalty, courage, cheerfulness, and service, and the Boy Scouts of America encourage Eagle Scout candidates to undertake worthy projects to improve their community. And whereas Benjamin Nader, a member of Boy Scout Troop 267, Lafayette District,
Cradle of Liberty Council, chose as his Eagle project improvements to the township's Eagleville Park and Esky Park that included the construction and installation of bins at each baseball field for the storage of infield mix. And whereas Benjamin's commitment to leadership and service is demonstrated by his progress through the scouting ranks to achieve the prestigious Eagle Scout Award, in recognition thereof, the Board of Supervisors of Lower Providence Township extends its sincere congratulations to Benjamin Nider on his attainment of the rank of Eagle Scout, the highest rank in Boy Scouts, resolved and adopted this 19th day of June 2014.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Ben for his project. As everybody might maybe noticed, it was pouring rain today. There's a baseball game down at Gogler Field right now, and that's where one of the bins went in. When I was out there guarding the parking lot, so people had places to park tonight, I was watching them get the field in shape, and they were going back and forth to the bin nonstop. And that area not only is cleaned up because of the bins, but the dirt is, the infield mix is ready to go at all times. And I'm sure they appreciate your work. I saw it in work today, so good job. It was better than expected. I really appreciate it.
Like Mr. Lucan said, I constructed some infield mix bins. There was one down there. There's two at Esky Park. They're roughly 6 by 4 by 4. I ended up making them like little fortresses. They're paneled up. Then we put this board on top of board to make sure that they would stay in place for a long time. We actually ended up needing a backhoe for the last one because we discovered that there was rebar dumped under the dirt where we were digging, and we had a auger and it wouldn't get through, so we were wondering what was under there, and we found out what was under there. So fortunately, my scoutmaster works for a construction company and just left in the middle of lunch and came back with one. But I was very happy to help out, and Mr. Lukens was very helpful, and I'm very happy to have been able to help the township.
Okay, moving on. Item 3A, under new business. Discussion and consideration of the Eagleville Crawford Park Multimodal Transportation Fund grant application. And our traffic engineer and our township engineer are going to give us a lot of information on this initiative. Welcome, Casey.
Okay. So we are in the midst of about 10 more days until the application is due. We are putting together an application that's part of a public-private partnership, if you would say, with a private entity, Audubon Land Development, who is supplying a local match to a grant application that the township is submitting for the alignment project of Crawford Road with Eagleville Road, which will include also some culvert and bridge widening, left turn lanes on Park Avenue, as well as signalization of the intersection to enhance the safety of that location. The project is estimated at approximately $5 million, give or take, in cost at this time. There's been no detailed design done to date. However, we've had several meetings with PennDOT, with some folks from the county, from some folks from Senator Rafferty's office. And the project involves letters of support, which we've been obtaining from all of those entities. As part of our early meetings, the head engineer, district executive of PennDOT, Les Toso, assigned us a project manager, whom it's a unique situation that very early in any project phase, this is kind of unheard of. So it was obvious to us that this is an important project to PennDOT as well as to DVRPC. They gave us a lot of guidance. We're working in association with the engineer for the applicant, and they're doing the design. We're doing the project management on behalf of the township, and everything's coming together real nicely. So at this stage, there's a formal application which is due on June 30th. As part of that process, we need letters of support, we need letters of commitment for the local match, and we've collected all those things. There's some paperwork that has to be signed by the Board of Supervisors in support of the application. And I can tell you that as recently as tonight, I spoke with Senator Rafferty myself, and he told me that he is going to make this a priority for the township, and that he will be meeting with the Secretary of Transportation next week, and he would like me personally to make sure that I send him all the information so that he has it at his side when he speaks with the Secretary to make sure that this project happens for the residents of Lower Providence Township. So I thought that was good news. That's no promises on his part, but that's a heavy weight. So that's where we stand. I don't know if Rich has anything to add, or Tim.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add, Casey, is what we're asking the board tonight is to approve the official resolution that has to accompany that application for the grant, and to also authorize us to send a letter of support. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, the resolution is contained as Appendix 2 to the information that we put in your packet. And basically, we hereby request a multimodal transportation fund grant of $3 million to realign the Park Road, Eagleville Road, and Crawford Road intersections, including traffic signalization. And then we authorize both Colleen Ekman or myself to execute all documents and agreements between the township and the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation to facilitate and assist in obtaining the requested grant.
Okay, so, Rich, you're looking for the board to approve the resolution and letter of support. Should we do those together or separately?
You can do them together.
Okay. Would any of the board members like to entertain motion to send up that resolution and letter of support with the grant application?
I will make that motion.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I would second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Now we can have questions. Do the board members have any questions?
Casey, hi, how are you this evening?
I'm doing great.
I know I've seen the paperwork and the plans, but for maybe some of the people in the audience, if you could just sort of give them an overview of what the proposed realignment would look like, and I think there's going to be a traffic light there with either version of the realignment, correct?
Yes. Unfortunately, I don't think we have a plan, do we, or do we not? You do have it? Yeah, if you have alternative 2, that would be perfect. I do want to make it clear to the public as we're discussing this that this is a grant process. This doesn't guarantee that the township will be successful in getting this grant. However, we feel very comfortable where we are and with the support that we have, that we're competing against a lot of people that are applying for grant money from this fund. And we feel we have an excellent project with a lot of history and safety concerns that are documented. So that's why we're proposing that the township move forward with this, especially with money that we have being provided that has to be at least 30% of the total construction cost, and at a $5 million cost, and having $2 million, we have 40% of that cost already to move this forward. This is a plan, a conceptual plan of what it may look like. This is based again on some very preliminary scoping discussions with PennDOT and the Department of Environmental Protection, DEP. At the going left to right on your plan, the longest yellow line is Park Avenue. And that roadway will be widened over Mine Creek, which is just south of the Eagleville interchange or intersection. That there's a bridge there now between Crawford Road and Eagleville Road. That will be widened in order to accomplish left turn lanes on both legs of Park Avenue as it approaches the new intersection. On the west or south side of that is the current alignment of Crawford Road, and that is proposed to be realigned or aligned opposite Eagleville Road to the north, and thus it will require another crossing. But, Bill, if you go down to the southern or eastern part of Crawford Road with your laser pointer right there. So where that comes off of the bend, just a little bit up from there is Mine Creek, and that'll require another structure in order to cross that. When you get to the intersection, there'll be some widening for some shoulders which are non-existent today, and there will also be a traffic signal there to control the traffic. There'll be warning devices because of the rolling topography and curves on this road to inform motorists that there's a red signal ahead because of, again, because of the unique topography and rolling hills on pretty much all the approaches. So that is the improvement project. This, the DVRPC, the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, has studied this intersection recently and is coming out with a safety study that I don't think has been published officially yet, but they've given us documentation. The township's looked at this intersection over the course of the last 10 years, and these are the improvements which have been recommended for a decade and concurred with the DVRPC study.
For those who are regular attendees at our meetings, you know I never miss the opportunity to talk about infrastructure. I am firmly convinced that it is the key to improving the quality of life for our residents and also enticing more business and corporate development in our township. It's never cheap, and this intersection is a safety concern. As Casey said, it's one we've known about for a long time. While this grant would not fully fund the project, it goes a long way towards getting the project done, and I'm excited about the opportunity to go forward with the grant.
Casey, do you have any idea when the grant application, once it's complete and submitted, when you could expect some sort of response?
Yeah, we will, the selections are made in October of this year, so we will know in October of this year. And the time frame is if we hear in October and this project begins to move forward, I don't think anybody would see this job completed until the year 2017, sometime in that year time frame. which is actually pretty good timing if you think about it, because the bridge at Arcola Road is going to be under construction through the year 2016, and this is a detour route currently for the Arcola Road Bridge, and so this construction can happen right after that, and we can go through that for one more project, but again, making the township a better and safer place for mobility.
What do you expect the ultimate construction timeline to be once it begins? Is it a 6-month project, a year-long project? Do you have any?
Yeah, construction should probably start in 2016 and approximately be about I would say an 18-month construction project. And that's really because we have to phase it because of the two culverts there, and probably build the leg with Crawford Road first so we can detour people around when we widen for the other leg.
And just for clarification's sake, it's a P3 project, but the township is not putting up any funds at this time or dedicating any funds. We're just basically I don't want to say a silent partner, but we're a non-paying partner in this
Right.
process.
The township's the applicant. They're kind of like the captain of the ship, and they're utilizing private entity funds and support, and we're kind of managing the project. That's correct.
Thank you, Casey. Any other questions from board members? Okay, questions from the audience? So this is basically the first step. We're sort of on a fishing expedition to see if this would be possible. Well, like Casey said, there's a lot of things that need to fall into place to make this grant application available to us, and it's looking very, very positive, unlike any other project when you're talking about getting state dollars for things. So we certainly do have all the right people supporting us, because they are aware that this intersection is such a problem for the township and has been for quite some time. So we're happy to hear that we're getting a lot of assistance here and help. Okay, any questions? All right, hearing none. So we have a motion and a second to put together this resolution and letter of support for the grant application for the multimodal, love that, application for Crawford Eagleville Park intersection improvements. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None? The ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, item 3B. This will be a discussion and consideration of an ordinance to authorize issuance of non-electoral debt and award a qualified interest rate management agreement for non-electoral debt in the amount of $1,012,000, together with the costs in the amount of $5,060. And Jerry and Lucian.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. We've had a few discussions in some of the last meetings, so I won't go into too much detail. I'll allow Lucian to speak on what he came to speak on. But as stated in your memo in your packet, the township is looking to assume a non-electoral debt of $1,012,000 and then the costs associated with that debt. And that's to finance the repair of the priority roads that the township manager and our engineer and public works director have detailed over a number of meetings also, for 2014 and 2015. And there was a little juggling of Arcola Road moving on to 2015 that was originally on 14. So there is a little tweaking that may occur, but the dollar amount is going to remain fairly consistent. At this point, I think it's important to point out, for the benefit of the viewers at home and those that are here this evening that may not have been here present, that the funding for the township to pay for this, there'll be no transfers from the unrestricted capital fund because of the increase in our liquid fuels funding through the year 2018 is going to be able to pay for the annual debt payment service on this note, as well as $250,000 that we have currently budgeted in 2014, not to paying for the note, but for the road repairs that we do not need to finance in with this project. And at this time, Lucian Calhoun of Delaware Valley Regional Financing Authority is here to speak on the interest rates and the other details. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, welcome again.
Jerry gets to talk about the exciting things. I get to talk about the things that make your eyes bleed. But the ordinance is a standard ordinance for the approval of non-electoral debt. As Jerry said, it authorizes the issuance of up to $1,012,000 of general obligation notes. It defines the project being for road reconstruction and resurfacing projects. It states the estimated useful life of the project. It authorizes a private sale of the notes to the Delaware Valley Regional Finance Authority and agrees to pay $5,060 cost of issuance, maximum cost of issuance to originate the loan. And it approves the forms of the final loan documents that will be executed at closing. It states the amortization of the principal and the maximum interest rate. The ordinance states a maximum rate of 15%. That's because the township has the right under the loan agreement with Del Val to convert to a variable rate at any time in the future, and the maximum variable rate is 15%. As of the close of business today, it certainly is the intention of the township to fix the rate to maturity. As of the close of business today, the fixed rate would have been 2.11%. Once the ordinance has been enacted, Del Val then has the authority to go out and lock the interest rate for the township. The ordinance awards a qualified interest rate management agreement. That's just dead act for authorizing Del Val to go out and execute an interest rate swap to lock that fixed rate for you. It directs the filing of documents to DCED for approval of the qualified interest rate management agreement and for approval of the issuance of the note. The ordinance pledges the full faith, credit, and taxing power of the township to make all payments obligated under the loan agreement and the notes. And as required by the Debt Act, it creates a sinking fund and appoints Wells Fargo Bank as a sinking fund depository. Wells Fargo Bank is trustee for the Delaware Valley Regional Finance Authority, and there is no additional cost to the township for those services as the sinking fund depository. The ordinance authorizes the advertisement of enactment, and it repeals any ordinances that conflict with this ordinance. Assuming that the board does indeed enact the ordinance, the advertisement of enactment would be placed with the newspaper tomorrow to run a couple of days afterwards. After proofs of publication are received, Del Val prepare the application to the Department of Community and Economic Development, and we would expect to have approval within a month, and we would expect the closing of this financing to occur on the 25th of July. But, that on a thumbnail are the contents of the ordinance.
Excellent, thank you, Lucian.
All right.
Okay, at this time then, could I have a motion to enact an ordinance to authorize the issuance of non-electoral debt?
You have that motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions from board members?
We close on the 25th of July, you said?
Yes.
That won't in any way preclude us from moving forward with the construction, right?
No.
Okay.
Shouldn't. Yeah, what do they think, what, July 14th we're going to start, John?
That's correct.
Excellent. Okay, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yeah.
All right, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. Thank you, Lucian.
Thank you
Have a
very
good
much.
night.
Thank you, Madam
Thank you,
Chairwoman.
Lucian.
Item 3C, discussion and consideration of an application DU 1402 Panera Bread de minimis application. This would be for approval. And Mike, you're going to give us a quick summary of this application?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. This application is to consider the preliminary and final approval of a application for land development, which involves the adding of a drive-through and a small addition to the existing Panera Bread facility down in the Audubon Square Center. The applicant is represented by Kim Creeder of First Edge Engineering, and we also have Tim Woodrow and Casey Moore to also discuss it if necessary.
Is Creeder? Is that Tim? Kreider. Excuse me. Come on, would you like to come forward, please? Kreider. Welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm sure we have many questions for you, so. Before us, we have our consultants' review letters. And one of the ones that I picked out was the traffic engineer was asking for turning radiuses into the drive-through.
Yes.
Has that been submitted? And
I didn't formally submit it. I submitted PDFs to McMahon.
Okay.
I don't know if you've had a chance to review it yet.
Yeah, we sent you a letter, I guess, yesterday. Did you not get that?
I did not get it, no.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, there was a handful of comments we had in a review letter that he did respond to. We put together a letter yesterday of June 17th. Ken O'Brien sent a letter out and copied you yesterday afternoon, early afternoon.
Okay.
So I'll have to make sure that it didn't bounce back to him for some reason. Went to the township staff that were working on the project. And we found that essentially all the things that were in our letter that you had addressed. There were a handful of items, though, that bullet point items that we just wanted to make sure that the supervisors were aware of with regard to circulation and how that may affect long-term use of, whether that tenant is there or somebody else, especially given that this part of the parking lot for Panera Bread is sort of a pinch point. There's a lot going on in that area of the parking lot, and that as long as Panera Bread operations are how they've been conveyed to us with the amount of drive-through traffic, we feel as though the application could be acceptable from the standpoint of that drive-through traffic. But we do have some ongoing concern for, I guess, the longevity of this. If Panera Bread changes its operations, it becomes much more of a fast food or a type of service with their drive-through, because of the location of where that traffic on the drive-through may back out into is the heaviest pedestrian parking and circulation area with the road. So we pointed those things out in the letter to the supervisors. I'm happy to give you a copy of my letter if you want to look at the points.
I'll see it tomorrow.
Okay.
Casey, I don't think the board members have that. You're thinking it's like a June
June 17th.
17th letter?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
unless you emailed that to us. We don't have it in our packet.
No, you were given that tonight. It was at the table. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. With the other pile?
Yes, it was with the other pile.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Okay. So do you feel, Casey, do you feel that that's still unresolved, or?
No, these are just, the items that we really are pointing out to the supervisors are concerns with us. One of them is the way that, I guess it'd be easier to talk from a plan if Bill had a plan, if we could put a plan up.
There we go.
Do you have a pointer too?
Not only turning radius, Casey, but right turn in particular.
Yes. Okay, so just to acclimate you to the plan, this is where the Panera Bread is located in the Audubon Shopping Center. So this is, let's call it an internal service road that connects up to Shenandoah Boulevard and back to the rest of the shopping center over where the other restaurants and Applebee's, et cetera, is. This corner here where the Panera Bread is, this location is Trooper Road. So all along here, this is all heavily parked today for the Panera Bread. There's also in this location existing parking which is proposed to be modified with the drive-through, and there's several dead-end spots. So when you pull in there, you have to back out and come back out this little entrance. What they're proposing to do is provide a drive-through window at the back part of the Panera Bread and bumping this area out. And then the existing trash receptacle, which I believe Kim is in the back today, will be moved and shifted to the side in an enclosure, and thus modifying this internal parking lot from the number of existing spaces it has, which I believe is maybe 6, and a handicap spot, to 3 parking spaces with the trash receptacle. This would be the drive-through lane then, where you see my pointer. This first location would be the ordering window. So that's where you would place your order, and then you would traverse to this window, which would be the pickup window, and then you would be required to come out here onto this service road and make your turns. As part of our letter, we made certain recommendations with radii. We asked for turning templates for certain types of vehicles. We asked for certain signage to be required that cars couldn't make certain movements because it would be too difficult, and they did that. Mr. Sergini, I think you mentioned, is this the right turn you're talking about,
Yeah.
the right turn in here? Yes. This will be somewhat of a difficult movement if you stayed in the lane that you're in. I think people, when they do this movement, would have to kind of swing out here. Now, the benefit to this parking being gone is that that movement can be better made, and it's also not in the way here. Can it be done? Yes, it can be done by a passenger vehicle. Most traffic may come in through the front of the center and turn left into here, and then come back out here and turn left out, just by the way this is presented to Shenandoah Boulevard. But that doesn't mean that vehicles won't come the other way. I think part of our concerns are that this parking that's being taken away, where people are parked all the time, people now will have to park on this side of the drive aisle to the rear, creating more pedestrian traffic that'll have to come across that driveway. Also, this is another entrance point or another conflict point where people are turning. Traffic that comes down here today, and this is not Panera's problem, but it's accentuated, I guess, with the introduction of this, is that when people come in front of the stores today, it's also met by a drive aisle that kind of, you can't see it clearly on this plan, but there's a triangular form of parking here. And the corner of the Panera Bread and people coming in here, this is almost like a blind spot area in terms of trying to slow people down. So one of our recommendations, or one of the things we point out in the letter of June 17th, is that we feel as though Panera Bread and the shopping center owner should provide some enhanced signing and pedestrian crossing in this area to kind of accentuate that people are in that area. There's really nothing there today to do that. What else did I want to point out to you? Did you have another question?
The review documents
Yeah.
also reference a fire hydrant that has to be moved. Do you know where that is on there, and have you consulted with Jim Alexander and the fire company?
That would be a question for Tim, and I think he can answer that for you.
Well, we don't need to move it anymore.
No.
Originally, when
No.
we
Okay.
originally did the very first design here, we did
Mhm.
have to move it because we were still having people. I'm just going to point.
Sure.
Right now, there's a lane that comes right through here. And originally,
It's right here.
this was not blocked off. And
Okay.
that fire hydrant would have had to be moved. But then we blocked it off, so we don't need to move the fire
Yeah.
hydrant anymore.
Okay, thank you.
So it's probably, this is probably a three-car stack, maybe a four-car stack to this drive aisle from the ordering window. And then it's about another three-car stack from the pickup window to the ordering window. Mr. Kreider, maybe you want to explain to the board the amount of traffic anticipated or that's expected by Panera Bread at their pickup.
Well, actually, they never really specify what they expect for their traffic here.
Okay. We had heard that through our research that the maximum number of people in an hour, their peak time,
Yeah.
may be about 26 customers pick up in that hour time frame. So if you break that down, that's roughly 3 cars every minute, or 1 car every 3 minutes, let's put it that way, which is roughly the serving time that people, it takes for people to be served, to pull up, take a couple minutes, then pull to the next window. So as long as that business operates in that time, in that space. I mean, everyone knows, I think, what Panera Bread sells. It's not Dunkin' Donuts, although they do have coffee and Danish. And Rich and I talked this morning or this afternoon about probably their morning time would be their busiest time, which doesn't conflict with the heavy parking for that drive-through. However, they do sell a lot of salads. They serve things like that aren't quick and ready to eat in the vehicle. So unless Panera changes what they offer and they start to go to a more fast food or drive-through window friendly environment, we don't anticipate that this would be a problem. It's just this location we have to monitor closely. And I would make a recommendation to the board that if the board is comfortable with this for Panera Bread, that any recommendation to approve it does not run in association with this building for any tenant, because you could have Starbucks or a Dunkin' Donuts or somebody that uses the drive-through more heavily move into that later on if Panera Bread decides to leave. And therefore, we would think that that drive-through would get more traffic and then could back out into that drive aisle. The parts of the plan that are better, I will tell you, is that, as Mr. Kreider pointed out, they are they are closing this end, so they're eliminating this point. They are also, while we have concern about the parking availability, the fact that there's no parking backing out into this entranceway, this is going to become a landscaped area, these 4 or 5 spaces. That area is probably better from the standpoint of maybe they should have never been there, but I know that the site is maxed out for parking, and this is just if you look on any map, an aerial, Google Earth, etc., this area is always parked out.
That's new park.
That's new parking, yeah.
What's that?
That's new park. There's 5 spaces.
This is new parking?
Yes.
So you're adding those spaces?
Right, they're taking the place of the ones that are getting lost.
So this is landscape today?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then I read that wrong. So I would have a little bit more concern about them backing out then.
The concern with that parking lot is a lot of the traffic is almost like a pass-through type traffic that comes through, or their destination is Panera, and it's a lot of in and out. And then, I guess time will only tell, if we implement a drive-through, it actually might help maybe some of the parking issues, because people are in and out of there so much. If there's a drive-through, maybe, that you don't have that need. But my concern is that dead-end parking area, which at present doesn't seem to function very well. And so now you're making it even smaller. That third space, which is, I guess, the closest to what used to be a handicap spot, I believe. I don't see that working. Yeah, that one down right there. If you try to back out, there's no way you can get out of that third space.
Well,
This is concrete.
that's just a concrete pad, so yeah, they can back out and
Okay.
make the turn.
So there's no curb.
There's no curb,
Okay.
no. That's just a concrete pad in front of the dumpsters.
So a trash truck will pick up the dumpster by backing into that little area?
Yes.
Okay.
How does that affect those parking spaces? They're not going to be usable, right?
For the couple minutes that the trash truck is there, yes, that's correct.
Do you know when the trash trucks come?
I
How
do not.
often?
No, I don't.
What if they only come after 10 o'clock at night? Then it wouldn't be a problem,
Right.
right? So that would be an acceptable condition?
Yes.
Okay. That solves that problem.
It's one down.
There's one down. I still think that turning radius.
This turn radius right
That
here?
needs to get cut off. There's just going to be a disaster. People trying to get in there. Even if
The only
they're-
way we could do that is we could put a no right turn sign there, but people would ignore that. Or you could cut this wider, flare this out wider so that this turn it's got a wider throat here.
May I, Chief Carroll? Are you aware of any history of accidents right here in this location?
Yes, we have accidents there. I can't give you a precise number off the top of my head, but it is very congested. This area, along with the Wawa at 705 South Trip Road, are both very congested. A lot of backing accidents and crossing accidents.
Well, I could see where we could widen up the throat there, like you're talking about.
It actually might help with those new spaces that you're proposing for those cars to back out as well.
Mhm.
Because it's fairly narrow there, and anybody with a bigger car, if you sit there and you watch them, it's very difficult for people to back in and out of there for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Well, we could do that. We could put a larger radius on that return.
And then some of the maybe proposed crosswalks painting on the.
Right. I just think when you're parked here, you got a lot to pay attention to. People are coming out the door, people are coming in this driveway, people are driving down here, people are coming around this building where you
And you're
can't
holding
really
a cup of
can't really
coffee
see
and-
around that corner of that building when you're backing out. So I think that leads to what the chief was talking about. The fact that this is an in only is better than it being another out, because you could never see around the corner here, and you could never see who's coming in this driveway either. So
Mr. Kreider, do you know how long Panera has their current lease for that unit is?
No, I don't.
Mr. Rice, do you know how you would limit the ability of the drive-through to only be able to be used by Panera and not a future tenant? as Mr. Moore recommended?
I mean, we'd have to attach a condition to the board's approval on this. We could record something against the real estate also, a
That-
restriction.
Would that require the approval of the landlord?
He would have to sign it, correct. But if it's a condition of the board's approval, I'm not sure he would have any options after that unless he wanted to file some kind of an appeal.
Do we have any idea what the position of the landlord, building owner is with respect to the application?
Well, I wish they were here to say. They were pretty much given that this was all on Panera to get this approved, and they're allowing them to make these improvements. It's really all I know about their agreement between the two of them. That doesn't seem unreasonable, though, what you're talking about. So, to make that a condition of the approval. Sounds like there's more details to be determined on this plan. I'll practice a little engineering, but it seems to me.
Yeah,
You're talking about signage, and is there a sign plan that they've generated yet for this? So,
There are some signs on the the plan that Kim submitted to me to review for tonight that produced this letter. But there's some of these non-tangibles, that aren't necessarily just plan related that I wanted to pull out to make sure the board knew about. And I think it might warrant us sitting down with the landlord to see if we can get some of these things better for the safety of this area of the shopping center if they're going to move forward with this, because I want to make sure everyone's comfortable.
Mr. Moore, I know you said you did some research on the peak usage. I haven't seen a Panera drive-through ever before. Do we know that the company has any stats across the nation about how many? I mean, I'm sure McDonald's or Wendy's or Dunkin' Donuts, they can tell you exactly how many, vehicles that they can expect through a certain time. Do we have any kind of stats or statistics with respect to Panera?
We don't have it for Panera specifically, except through the hearsay that we heard through the sources that we talked to about who've been putting some of these in for Panera. I don't have a document like some people have parking studies and stuff done. We can use something as general as the Institute of Transportation Engineers manual that shows with drive-through how much the drive-through may generate, but that's all types of uses, not just a Panera Bread. So we're relying on essentially the information told to us and not necessarily something in writing from Panera Bread. So that may be something to make the board more comfortable as well, I would think.
I know personally, I think I would like to see more information on the actual usage of the drive-through, any kind of accident statistics we have for that location, and position of the landlord before I'm able to fully make a decision on it.
Right. I agree with you.
Well, it's definitely a concern, because if the traffic backs up and is stacked into the drive lane where we have, many cars coming through, cutting through, what are they going to do? Be going around each other, and it could be a problem.
Yeah, there is, there are drive-through lanes that exist for different facilities that do not have what I call a bypass lane. But if somebody's in that lane, they're in that lane until the car in front of them moves. There's not the luxury of pulling out and leaving.
I certainly think it'd be something that will be well used, so we want to make sure it's well designed as also, and functions properly.
Shall we table this then, until such time as those questions can be answered?
Is that a motion?
I'd make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table the Panera Bread de minimis application. Any further questions from board? Do you have any questions from the audience on our motion?
That's the letter he was talking about.
Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Thank you.
All those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Kreider.
Thank you, Mr.
Look
Crowder.
forward to it. Okay, item 3D, more discussion. This is on consideration of land development 13-03 for the address of 16 Eagleville Road. This is a preliminary final approval. This plan's been around for a while. Mike?
Yes, good evening again. This applicant is looking to develop a single lot with a slightly different use and has been through a couple of reviews. There was some outstanding question about possible access through a driveway and waivers, and so the applicant was asked to speak to adjoining neighbors, and so I believe that the applicant's engineer will be wanting to discuss the plan with you this evening.
Surprise, surprise. Welcome.
Yes, I have a disc or whatever. Do you have plans to put up, or I can provide it for you? This is 16 Eagle View Road. Let me give you a disc here. Okay, we'll put this up.
And sir, before you begin, can you state your name for the record, please?
Sure. My name is Dave Zepp, and I'm with Joseph M. Estock. And just briefly, as Mike was saying, the plan has been around for a while, because originally the parking that you see to the right there was closer to the rear of the building, a little bit more towards Eagle View Road. And you can see the existing driveway to the residence, which is being converted, to office, whatever, is kind of narrow. So I know there was a move to ask the property owner, whatever, to approach the neighbor to, I'm going to say, the southwest, and it's the lower one on the plan there, to see if he'd be agreeable to grant an easement to utilize his driveway and create a counterclockwise circular one-way egress and ingress to come in and out of the property. That was unattainable. The property owner, we had revised the plans, and there were the plans that were before you that showed that. But unfortunately, the adjoiner there was, like I said, unagreeable to that. So we ended up reverting back to the original plan, which shows the driveway. Now, it's two ways, it's in and out. It's a little narrow, but it's a little bit, but it is an existing condition. And some of the other things that were accomplished here or whatever is we moved the general parking area that's to the rear of the building. We centered that in the site to reduce some of the concerns about it being too close to the one property line on the original plan that was before you. And then we tried to widen the driveway out as quickly as we could to get it as wide as it could be beyond the constriction point that's there. And I believe some of the review comments, whatever, were asking us to put signage up to have incoming vehicles yield to the vehicles that would want to be leaving the site. And I'm going to say it's minor in nature in the fact that the entire, I mean, there's 8 cars back there and everything, so it's not going to be like a high-volume use driveway. And I believe, that was what some of the thoughts were by the consultants or whatever, and to like, make it be accomplished when it became unattainable to, get the adjoining neighbor to agree to, do the circular driveway. The waivers or whatever, they were on the plan. It's basically the improvements along Eagleville Road. There is no curbing or improvements on our side of the road in that stretch except for the convenience store that's on the corner of Eagleville and Ridge. So we had thought that would be something to accomplish. We are showing the sidewalk, which I think was a major sticking point on previous reviews, that they had asked for that. And I can say there's not a whole lot more that I can, I'm trying to be brief, but if you have any specific questions, I can certainly address any comments you may have, so.
I seem to recall way back when the planning commission, one of the times when the planning commission had this, there's a telephone pole that's right out at the end of the driveway. And I have a super little small plan, so forgive me. Need a magnifying glass. I think this is the property from what I remember. It looks that is still to remain and will not be moved. Does anybody remember that, or am I talking about another site? Okay.
No, yeah, it's actually right there at the corner of the driveway. As you're looking at the plan on the screen, it's on the lower side, the southwest corner of the driveway, and that is there, and that is going to, the way the plan's presented, it's to remain where it's located.
I do appreciate that you're now showing the sidewalk, because I don't know if you ever travel up and down Eagleville Road, but there are people that walk there on both sides, and they're going to I guess they're walking to Turkey Hill or somewhere further points, and I think if we can finally get a complete sidewalk along there, it would be very helpful. Anybody else have any questions?
No.
We're simply before you're here tonight, hoping to hear an approval.
Okay. Well, how would you like to proceed? You guys ready? You ready? Yeah.
Review has the waivers listed
Okay.
in paragraph 5. All of them would be approved except for the sidewalk D along, that would be a denial.
Right.
So in terms of an approval, the approval would include 5A, B, C, and E on the waivers. And then the D would be denied. And you're showing the sidewalks. I think the
Yes.
planning commission recommended denial of the waivers for the sidewalk.
For the sidewalk, right.
Right.
Okay, so this is all in one. So if someone would like to entertain a motion to accept this resolution, which would approve the preliminary final land development application for 16 Eagleville Road with the mentioned waivers, except for the sidewalk waiver, which is now a moot point because it's shown on the plan.
I would make the motion to accept the final plan of All Chick Inc. at 16 Eagleville Road to approve the plan with the exception of paragraph 5D.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, do we have any questions from board members?
No.
Questions from the audience? No, hearing none. Okay, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zepp.
I have you sign too.
Yeah, okay.
Because there's attachments that have to be put.
And then what do you, oh, so you'll just put that as?
Yeah, I'll just,
Okay, item 3E, this will be discussion and consideration of the Park and Recreation Board's 5-year capital plan. And Carl, you're going to walk us through that?
Sure. In your packets, you should have a copy of the plan that the Park and Recreation Board has been working on. At the June 10th Park and Rec Board meeting, they made a motion recommending that supervisors approve this plan. On our plan, all the projects on there, it's important to note that they only get completed if the money's in the bank, or Fund 33. If there's not enough funds in there for a current year, we push the projects off, and every year I reprioritize to make sure the most important projects get done with whatever funds we have. So if you have any questions on them, I'd be happy to answer.
Do you have the spreadsheet that we have to put up there?
Sure.
Just for the benefit of everyone in the audience to see, that it includes improvements to all of our facilities, upgraded bathrooms, addition of a play structure at Del Angelo Park, upgraded play structures here at Eagleville Park, just so everyone can see.
And also, I think it's important, that Fund 33 that Carl's referring to, the Park and Rec Board's fund, is through developer fees. So that, basically that means when a project comes in and gets approved, there's a percentage that has to go to the Park and Rec Department, and that pays for these projects.
Yes, for our capital.
It's not tax money.
Any questions on any of the specific projects? No, looks good, Carl.
No, Carl, and if I may, just, please thank the Parks and Rec Board. I know you guys have worked very hard on going out, touring all the facilities and meeting and prioritizing the different improvements that are needed at each park. And I know the Parks and Rec Board has spent a significant amount of time researching and investigating and then, discussing this. So please, thank them on our behalf.
I will, yeah, and thank you for saying that. The Park and Rec Board, they don't just come up with these ideas, they actually go out and walk the properties with me.
There's one item, fence replacement for the basins, and this is something that our frequent audience members might remember. I always say this about our basins being fenced, and something that we still haven't really nailed down as to whether that should be that requirement should be removed or not. And I realize it's still in place, but you can see it's a considerable amount of money that we pay to fence in our basins. And in the past recent years, we've had an initiative to allow our basins to grow natural, and so they're not mowed basins, and it's something that I still would like us to consider, removing that requirement that our basins be fenced. I think it's sometimes a little silly. If you pass some of our basins that have mature trees and understory, material vegetation growing, I don't understand why we're fencing that in, but I understand the history of it, but I still would like us to put it on our list of consideration. Okay.
So I guess we need a motion to accept that plan.
All right, would someone like to entertain a motion to accept the Park and Rec 5-year capital plan?
Make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from our audience? It's getting smaller. All those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Okay, item 3F, discussion and consideration of Sporango 220 Summit Avenue conditional use decision. Our solicitor, John Rice, has something on that topic.
Yes, this is the written decision. The board held the hearing on this. It was a relatively straightforward, short hearing, which, and you voted and approved the modification of the existing conditional use approval. So this is a requirement for a written decision under the planning code to be issued. This is the decision for the board's approval. I haven't received any comments from anyone. I assume it's acceptable. There's some conditions there, one of which is that the township gets reimbursed for its costs. And that was part of your modification of the land development plan too. So we're continuing that condition. That's all I have on this.
Okay, so you need action from the board to accept the conditional use decision.
Yes.
Okay. All right, can I have a motion to accept that decision?
I would make the motion to accept the conditional use decision for the 220 Summit Avenue project.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from our audience? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carried. Okay, item 3G, discussion and consideration of a refuse and recycling collection and associated alternatives. And Jerry has done a little research for us, so Jerry, we'd like to hear that info, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. In anticipation of the board initiating a discussion this evening on the township's trash service, the refuse and recycling collection, Township Manager asked that I survey surrounding communities to see how they handle their program. The list in your packet details 26 communities. Of those 26, it was pretty much spread out fairly evenly. Nine of those municipalities use contracted haulers for their residents. 7 of those municipalities have an in-house service for their own employees, and 10 of those municipalities allow their residents to select their own private haulers. Out of the 10 municipalities that allow their residents to use private haulers, 4 of those municipalities have a population of over 20,000. So if you want to do, I would never commit to an apples to apples when we're comparing these communities, but somewhat closer, at least in population, to Lower Providence. And this information is simply provided for a background. We're showing the number of weekly pickups, the hauler that the municipalities use, if it is a single hauler within that municipality. But again, we're not drilling down to the level of, is there bulk pickup included? Is the recycling included? Is yard waste included? This really is meant to show you the different types of service provided, not the level of service at this point.
Thank you, Jerry. I think it's very interesting to look at who has a private hauler system as opposed to, one designated contract or actually who's doing it in-house. It's interesting to look at that, see what our neighbors are doing. So this is a part of our ongoing, continuing conversation about how our trash is, removed from the township, and the board is collecting information so that we can make a decision as to how to proceed, whether it's to rebid again, like we've done in the past for many, many years, or some other alternative. So the information that we're receiving from residents is very helpful. I have to say, I haven't received much feedback. I think in the past month, I've gotten one written and one verbal. And both of them are very well thought of. You know, people in Lower Providence are well versed on their trash for some reason, which is good. So I will open it up to board members. I don't know if anybody else has gotten any emails from residents on this subject.
I have not. My only comment tonight would be that I welcome comments. So if you can't come out to a meeting and express your opinion here in person, please send the board via email or, you know, reaching out to Rich and send your comments. I welcome and really I want as much input as possible from the residents as to what their thoughts are on the trash service we have now and the various alternatives they'd like to see or not see here.
Okay.
Agreed. The only one I've received is one you forwarded today.
Yeah, we've got a very lengthy one today. Basically, a resident was in favor of a once a week. Basically, there were some other things about suspension of service should be one or 2 weeks rather than a whole month of suspension.
Right. It had some ideas on differentiated system, once or twice a week in different colors for trash cans and that sort of thing.
Yeah, very well thought of. Does our audience have anything they'd like to discuss about that? Yes, Candy.
Candy Alaba, Eagleville Road. I am one of the residents that are fortunate enough to have a private hauler. We kept our private hauler. The last time the contract came up, it was kind of leaned on that we should switch over to Mascara. When this came about in 1999, we were told specifically by the township that anyone who had a private hauler before 1999 could keep them. We kept ours. We are very happy with who we have. It is cheaper than the hauler the township has. It's picked up once a week. I can contact them anytime, 24 hours a day. There's no restrictions on what they will or will not take. Anything large, I have to let them know ahead of time. I'm happy because it's cheaper. Now, I know comments have been made, it lessens the traffic from the trash trucks. My hauler picks up once a week, not twice a week. I live on Eagleville Road. The least of my problems with traffic is the trash truck, considering I have school buses that run by constantly, big, large trucks. But I think the residents in the township should be allowed to choose who they want to have. I know my hauler was a little upset last time because a number of their longtime customers dropped them because they were afraid and went over to Mascara, and they were very upset, and they didn't understand it. They were grandfathered. And that's why I still have my trash company, because I'm grandfathered. But I know Norristown, their residents pay taxes to have the borough pick up their trash. We pay taxes, but this isn't included into the taxes that we pay. So as a longtime resident who is very happy with who I have, I think this should be left up to the taxpayers to decide what service they choose to have. And if they choose whatever, that's fine, but they shouldn't be made to take someone they really don't want to have. It should be a homeowner's choice. Thank you.
Candy, can I ask you, do you happen to know how much you pay a year, if you wouldn't mind telling us?
A little over $200 a year.
Okay.
And I know it's and I mean, it's only once a week, which right now at this point in our life, once a week is fine. But we've had, I mean, recently, the last couple of months, we've been cleaning out the house, and all I do is call up and say, I'm going to put such and such out with the trash cans, just to give them a heads up, and it's gone first thing in the morning. So, I mean, I know the township hauler, I've had a few problems with them over the last couple of years with them coming down and picking up my trash and breaking my cans. And I mean, they dealt with it immediately, which I was very happy with, but I have a sticker on my mailbox that shows that I don't have Mascara. Plus, my trash cans are blue and not red, so. But my trash bill, I'm happy to say, is cheaper.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. That's very helpful.
You're welcome.
Yes, please come up.
My name is Sam Augustine. I'm Director of Sales with Mascaro.
Hi, Mr.
And
Augustine.
I just wanted to introduce myself, let you know I was available here tonight, and I would answer any questions you may have in regard to the service. We certainly appreciate your business in Lower Providence Township. I can tell you that your level of service, and I know that Jerry had given you a report tonight with 26 communities with differing levels of service, obviously, and differing types of service. Right now, you have a comprehensive level of service, not only with the 2 times a week trash collection, but you have 64-gallon toters, both for trash and recycling. The residents can put trash outside the toter should they have extra trash, especially in the spring and summer and heavier times of year. The recycling with the toter has probably increased some 50–60% since the last contract, which has been very, very beneficial to your residents and to the township. And also, I would relate that your township does receive 52 weeks of yard waste collection, and that's not only yard waste and garden waste, that's also grass, which is very unusual. You're probably only one of 6 or 7 townships we have that people can mow their lawns and put out their grass, and it can be taken to a compost facility. We own one, or we own a compost facility quite close. So with this 52 weeks of collection, this year was obviously a very challenging year with all the yard waste that was out in the spring, but you have a separate yard waste collection for all that. So overall, again, we thank you for your service, and I just wanted to go over the service that you have and the amount of service that you have. And then one other issue is I've had over 30 years of experience in the garbage business, and I can tell you, I come from a community, Limerick Township, that does not have one hauler, and I've lived there for 25 years, and I can tell you it's with the number of residents we have in our township. When I moved there, it was probably only 8,000. Now it rivals Lower Providence, might have a little more than Lower Providence, and we have so many different trucks coming through that township. It's incredible. In this township, of course, you have one hauler, a systemized service, and it seems to work quite well. And being in the business as long as I have, I don't think communities, I haven't seen communities back down from a systemized type service, that's very highly organized. So I just wanted to offer my thoughts, and again, I'd answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Augustine.
You bet.
I'm
Thank
sure you're aware, you probably get the same comments that the board gets
Yes.
over the years, that,
Yeah.
we'll hear from seniors or people that are on fixed incomes or very low incomes, and they have difficulty paying $400
Yes.
a year for trash. Of course, as a township, we are responsible to provide recycling. That's mandated, state mandated. But we're always trying to make sure our residents are, well taken care of. It's certainly necessary to have trash pickup, regardless of if, we say who it is or, the residents are able to pick. But I think in general, we want to get the best buy for our residents, and if it's a different system, I think, we're willing to entertain that at this point. At least for me, I'm trying to gather information. So,
Yes.
thank you for coming.
And in stating that, I understand, Ms. Ekman, and what you can do with a bid is, obviously, you can put in different options that would take into consideration senior citizens, different options that would take into consideration a bag system, perhaps the recycling. And also, in your last bid, you even had in your bid that if seniors did want to, I think it's 3 months out of the year, take themselves off billing, they could. So there were different options in the past bid, and there could be different options going forward to within a bid that could address some of those issues. Okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, do we have any more questions from the audience or comments on this subject? Okay, hearing none. Should we pick it up again in another month? Talk about it again? And
Maybe not on the 17th, but perhaps in August.
yes, yes. So our July 17th meeting will be a very packed meeting because we're not having our first meeting in July because it's July 3rd, and that's our fireworks. So we will, how about we postpone it till the first week in August? Is that what we said? Okay. Denise? Oh, Denise is not here. We've got to remember to tell her that.
I got it.
Okay, thank you, Rich. All right, so we're not taking any votes on that, 3G. Okay, so with that, that'll work right into our announcements of our upcoming meetings. There will be a Planning Commission meeting on June 25th at 7 p.m. And do we know what the items are on that agenda, Mike?
Yes, there are two items. One is the Audubon Square 5 shopping consideration, and the second would be a reconsideration, so to speak, of the Kimco text amendment for the outside storage unit over here on Ridge Pike.
Was that, Kimco, was that tabled by the Planning Commission?
Yes, it was.
Okay, thank you. All right, so right into, while you're at the microphone, our zoning hearing board meeting is June 26th at 7.
Yes, there's two items that have some history to them. One is a consideration by the zoning hearing board of a request by Mascara Brothers for their billboard, which had apparently been through a court settlement, and they are asking to modify that. So that'll be considered at the public hearing. There is also a matter that has been before the board for a couple of months now that's been continued because the board asked for additional information, and that is relative to the possible development of the existing ambulance facility on Hillside. Then two other matters. One would be looking to develop several properties on Fifth Avenue. I believe that's the Tabors. They've been looking at that in several different forms in the past. And lastly is a resident on Penn View, where they are looking to extend a patio into a rear yard setback that would exceed standards.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Boy, we're getting busy, aren't we?
We are.
You're here just in time. Okay, so then a reminder again about our Independence Day celebration. It's not on July 4th this year, and hopefully this year only. It will be on July 3rd. The concert will begin at 6:30, followed by the fireworks at dusk. And so I'm sure Carl's already working on the 2015 fireworks company, right?
I am.
Getting the date back to July 4th. Thank you. And reminder again, so for July, the Board of Supervisors will only be meeting once, and that will be on July 17th. Now, that July 17th meeting is scheduled to be a very long one. On our agenda will be a conditional use hearing for the Meadows at Shenandoah and the ever popular or not so popular issue of the Shenandoah Boulevard extension will be discussed at that conditional use hearing. So if anybody has interest, I suggest you attend that meeting. And we'll move on to item 5, comments and other business. We have one request from Park and Rec Board. Park and Rec Board has made a recommendation to appoint a new student representative to replace Cam Jones, who is current representative, and he is graduating, right, Carl? If the board would like to entertain the recommendation by the Park Board, we could do so now.
I would make a motion to appoint Zach Bodick to be the voting student representative to the Park and Rec Board, and Karina C. to be appointed as the non-voting member to the Park and Rec Board.
Okay, thank you, Jason. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I would second.
Motion and a second. Do you have any questions on that?
To amend that, that would be effective September 2014. Yep.
Carl, can you just give us a little bit of a rundown on the steps or the processes that the Park and Rec Board took to identify the various candidates, and I think they interviewed them all. And
Yes, thank you. There was 4 applicants that came in with letters of interest for this position that it'll open up in September once Cam Jones is off to college. On the 28th and 29th of May, a number of the Park and Rec Board members sat with those interested parties and talked to them about the position. Then before our June 10th meeting, they discussed it with all the members. Some of the members weren't able to make the initial meetings, and then they passed on this recommendation. All the applicants were very well received, and the other 2 applicants that they were not recommended at this time to be a voting or non-voting member, we're hopeful that we can get them involved in the program, volunteering for all our events as much as possible, to really show them what we do and get some of their guidance, even though they may not be specifically on the Park and Rec Board.
I know I personally, I saw the resumes or the letter of interest from the candidates, and they're all stellar candidates, and we're very fortunate here in Lower Providence, and the students that the Methacton School District produces, that they're quality kids and good students, and they take civic obligations seriously. So, Carl, thank you for organizing it and giving the opportunity to the students.
You're welcome.
I guess the word must be out. I remember when this program first started, it was difficult to find, high school students that were interested, and this is wonderful that, that they're interested, and it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of, it's the nighttime meetings, but then it's also all the events that they're there, and they're the ones parking the cars and doing all the hard work, and so this is great. The more you can get involved, the better. So thank you, Carl, to you and your board members. I'm sure they spread the word too, so that helps. Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second on that. Would you like to take a vote? All those in favor? Consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carried. Okay, we have one other item under other business. The solicitor has this item.
We actually need 2 items.
2? Oh, I only have 2.
Then the other Park and Rec Board, the Parks and Rec Board met on June the 10th, and they discussed the long-term leases for Red Tail Park and for the football field out here, and they've made recommendations to the board to enter new leases with the Methacton Warriors Pop Warner football program for the football field park out here, and with the Methacton United soccer program for the soccer field at Red Tail Park, with some improvements to be made to the fields by both organizations. And I think at this point, the Parks and Rec Board is looking for our solicitor to go ahead and draw up the leases for final approval by the board.
The board should authorize me to do that.
Okay. Okay, excellent. All right. So with that, is that in the form of a motion?
Sure. So I would make a motion at this time to authorize Solicitor Rice to draw up contracts or leases for the lease of the Red Tail Park to the Methacton United Red Tail Park soccer field to the Methacton United soccer program, and to the football field here at Eagleville Park to the Methacton Warriors Pop Warner football program and cheer program. Can't forget the cheerleaders.
Cheerleaders won the championship recently.
They did.
Mhm. Okay, thank you, Patrick. So we have a motion. Do we have a second to that?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? Questions from the audience? All those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. Okay. Okay, now Solicitor Rice has one item for us.
The other item I have for tonight is I'm looking for the board to authorize my office to file a enforcement action involving a property we're all familiar with at 1433 Paulings Road. We have Mr. Gestrick, Mr. Woodrow, Mr. Mrozinski, and I have been attempting to develop a plan of compliance for some 4 months or so with the property owner over an unresolved set of conditions that involve buffer yards, stormwater management, and grading plans that we don't feel at this point the property owner has any intention of following through with. So these are all subject to a court order, and what I'm looking for tonight is this authorization to proceed to enforce that, which would be in common pleas court.
Okay, so would someone like to put forth a motion to authorize the solicitor to file that enforcement action?
I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the solicitor to pursue that objective.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Any questions from the audience? All those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Motion carried. Okay, any other comments from board members?
Brief announcement, the Sewer Authority met last week.
Sure.
They continue the work of lining sewer laterals, and the annual on-site review of pumping stations and Sewer Authority properties and operations will take place next Tuesday, June 24th, and the Board of Supervisors has been invited to attend, so several of us will be attending as well.
Very exciting.
I'm excited.
We're going to take a day off from work for that.
Cheap shoes.
Jill could not be here tonight, but she passed along to me the message that she was at the Planning Commission hearing on the 10th. Unfortunately, I was unable to make the Planning Commission meeting that night, but discussed at the Planning Commission it was a special Planning Commission meeting solely to discuss the Shenandoah Boulevard completion through to Park Avenue. At that time, the Planning Commission adopted or agreed to the request by Audubon Land Development to change the plan, and as we referenced before, now it's coming before the board as a conditional use hearing on July 17th.
Yep, correct. Don, anything exciting happening at the library?
It's very quiet at the library,
Okay.
as you might expect.
I see from their minutes they're looking to consider redesigning the interior, possibly.
And they're in the process of consulting with a interior space design expert so that they can more adequately meet the needs of the changing population in our township.
Okay, excellent. Okay, do we have any, we'll do courtesy of the floor. If the board members don't have anything, then we'll go to the audience.
I have a quick follow-up announcement. Through magnet sales and generous donations, the Methacton Save a Life Club was able to raise over $1,000 for Leah Feldman and her family. And they would like to extend their gratitude to everyone who bought a magnet or donated, and it was a big help, and they really appreciate it.
Thank you, Haley.
Thank you, Haley.
Excellent. Okay. Yes, Candy?
At the last meeting, I brought up about the chipping. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Primus, because it was taken care of immediately the next morning. Don't know what time, because by 8:30, my husband came in and went, they cleaned up the front yard. And I know that day I called and left a message, but he was already out of the office. But I figured, I know a lot of residents come up and they complain, it's taken care of, you never hear from them again. So I wanted to thank him publicly, him and the public work employees, for coming out and taking care of it. Because like I said, it made my husband happy, which made me happy. But it made it very easy for him to clear, and they did a beautiful job. So I want to thank him again. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this. Thank you.
There were two other items, I think, at that meeting that were brought up. Potholes that were addressed on Summit Avenue. We got right out there, too, and we appreciate that. And a sign will be put out, right, Chief Carroll, at Waterfall Circle. And I think that was about it. There were three things that came up from that meeting. So we do appreciate the quick response to those concerns. Okay, anything else? All right, we'll adjourn this meeting. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
You have that motion.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Good night.
Thanks for being here, folks.